and welcome back to Prop by the Bar, back in our usual venue at Geelong Celador and Little Malop Street. So thanks for having us again, John. Big episode we have coming up. We've got Mayor Stephanie Asher to interview, so look forward.
She's going to be great.
Great. So
just I'm wearing a tie just specifically for Steph.
You are looking very dapper, mate.
Well, you got to dress up. It's the office.
Yeah.
You know, you got to respect the office of the mayor.
Respect
our first citizen.
Looking very dapper anyway, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And just want to thank everybody for their support. We've actually had our biggest episode last month in terms of viewership, and out of that we've got some great questions to ask our mayor coming up. Market's
going nuts. I don't know, and it's getting so much harder and harder as valuers to keep doing what we're doing, because every week is setting new benchmarks and new levels of value in different areas, and it's very hard. You can't predict it.
Yeah.
I know that there's a fair bit of press at the moment on the real estate agents for underquoting at auctions. I think if you certainly stood back and just looked at that in particular auction of each time, it might look that way, but the market is moving so much faster than anybody predicted it would.
Yeah.
And we're certainly seeing values in areas exceeding what any other comparable would have normally put that value at. Now that's difficult in one way as a valuer, because we have to look at settled sales, but the good thing is we're only probably looking at that sale when 3 or 4 months later when they're going for the bank loan and settling anyway. So we at the moment we've been able to find enough settled sales and things to keep things ticking over, but it's only going to get tougher.
Yeah. So anecdotally, you're seeing, and I think we had one on the weekend where property sold at auction, more than $100,000 over reserve.
I was at that auction. At the auction.
And as agents, you have to fill out a statement of information, where you get your comparables from, what range you expect to sell. You've got a reserve price noted on the authority, and these prices are just well exceeding expectations.
I did offer to fill that form in for you if you wanted, but the thing about it is that it's not just your agency that's seeing those gains.
You're seeing it every week.
Well, you did one in Geelong West. You're seeing it every week, but you're seeing it multiple times on a weekend. You're seeing it. So you did that one in Geelong West where I think it was quoted at 650, sold for 805 or thereabouts, and it was just a little townhouse in Geelong West. Great spot near Manor Street. So really location for that one. But then you have a look at McGrath's sold one in LaSalle's Avenue, and it was a similar story. It was around the 650 mark. Advertised prices sold for in excess of 800,000. I mean, these vendors are friends of ours, and they were through the moon. They did not expect that themselves, and it's their house. So great for local people selling in this market.
So when you're valuing something for the bank, what we're seeing in these big increases, can you note what it's been sold prior to it settle, or do you have to value something based on settled sales?
No, we base on settled sales only.
Yeah.
Yep. So that always means that valuers in some respects are always 3 months behind the market.
Yeah.
But you've got to remember, we're only probably valuing it 3 months after it's sold, or 2 months after it's sold, depending on the finance clause. So generally we're getting that part of the market is flowing through. It just is 3 months later to what we're looking at. So we should get the right comparables. But one of the things that people keep pointing out to me is that, you haven't got the sale in the street from 6 months ago. Well, 6 months ago, sales might as well be 5 months ago, 5 years ago, for all I care, because they're no longer an indication of the market. The market has moved so much in the last 6 months that you may as well not worry about the previous sale. But it is interesting to have a look at some of those properties when they sold previously to what they're selling for now.
What I'm hearing a lot is first home buyers, even though they've got those grants, they're just now getting priced out of the market.
They still are.
And,
they still only make up a small percentage of the market. I think it's like not even a third. But
what are you seeing from a lending perspective, some of the stuff that's in place to help?
Oh, you can do guarantors. You can, and you get, there's the bank of mum and dad that everybody's talking about. The checkbook comes out from mum and dad. But I think what happens more often is that mum and dad put some sort of equity in their own home up as guarantor against that lending. So it allows them the banks can bundle mum and dad's home with a bit of equity in it with the home that's been purchased by the kids, and they can grab some of the equity out of there and put it across. There is stuff out there in the market tailored to this sort of lending scenario, so that there is things out there in different lenders have got stuff like that.
Just a couple of key stats I think highlight the heat of the market. East Geelong has a 25.8% increase over the last 12 months and 83.5% over the last 5 years. Belmont's had an 11.1% over the last 12 months.
That has surprised me. I thought Belmont had gone harder.
Yeah, and the other one, Newtown, which is blue chip, but 18.2% over the last 12 months and a 60.5 over the last 5 years. So
yeah, and
when they say safe as houses.
Well, it is in those areas. I mean, they're all inner areas, and they make all the. They've got all the characteristics to provide value increase because you're close to linkages, you're close to infrastructure. You've got everything you need in those areas. Now, and if you have a look across regional Victoria has grown at 9.3% since quarter 2 2020.
Yeah.
So that's including COVID. You take COVID out, it's really over the last quarter that we've gone 9.3%.
Yeah.
So it's pretty incredible growth. And that's happening everywhere. So it's good, except in Melbourne. It's not happening as much in Melbourne. In fact, I had to do a valuation recently in Melbourne because it was a mortgagee's valuation, so it was a nasty one. But I had to go up there and look at that, and it's incredible, a different feel in Melbourne. It's like yin and yang. It's like leaving this positive, progressive market of Geelong and going up to Melbourne and feeling the depression of high vacancy rates in rentals where they're at 11%. They've doubled, and you've got people in the streets, really not having that same vibe that we've got here. So it is yin and yang at the moment between Melbourne and here. Yep.
Auctions this week, biggest weekend of the year so far.
Just been,
823 auctions.
Massive.
I think clearance rates were up about
73% across the Victoria, but I reckon Geelong was recorded about 84%. Yeah. Which is, so when you've got a clearance rate above 65%, they say that's a growing market. Yep. So, I've said that before, and it's one of the measures. And, I can't see it slowing down the next couple of weekends. Yep. I think the listings have just come on, really. Yeah. And as the listings come on, that might slow things down, but it's also going to mean, we're going to get a lot more activity. Yeah,
stock levels are up, certainly still down from this time last year. So there's a few takeaways, none bigger than, you heard it here, that valuers are 3 months behind the rest of the market. But I think we should get on and have a chat to our guest today.
Yep, that'd be great to see Stephen.
Right, cheers. Before I introduce our guest this month, Mayor Stephanie Asher, it's actually the first time I've seen you wear a tie.
I'm nearly strangling myself here, Mike, but I'm trying.
You look fantastic, mate. But Mayor Stephanie Asher has been a Geelong councillor since 2017 and Mayor of our city since 2019. A resident of Ocean Grove, she's passionate about standing up for the community in a strong and principled manner. Mayor Asher chairs the Geelong Sustainability Performance Portfolio and CEO of the Employment Matters Committee, and she's Deputy Chair of Finance and sits on the Audit and Risk Committee. Mayor Asher also represents the City of Greater Geelong in the Regional Capitals Australia and Regional Cities Victoria Committees, and she was elected Chair of the G21 Geelong Regional Alliance in 2020. Mayor Asher is the CEO of a management consultancy with a successful career in corporate strategy, policy and communication specialist, and she's also a best-selling author of Susan Alberti's authorised biography. So we're in esteemed company here.
That was well read, Mike.
I didn't want to miss anything, so
Very good.
yeah, bear with me with my
welcome
reading.
our first citizen.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
No, I'm very honoured that you wore a tie.
For you. Respect to the office,
Nice.
Thanks for joining us. Why don't you tell us about, you're not originally from Geelong?
No, not originally. I did live here for a couple of years as a 2-year-old with my parents, obviously. Born in Adelaide, and my dad worked for Chrysler in Adelaide and then moved to Geelong to work for Ford.
Yes.
And I went to Morongo Kindy for a couple of years, and then we moved to Melbourne from there. So I basically grew up in Melbourne in North Balwyn, otherwise known as North Boring.
North Boring,
It is actually quite boring. And went to Campbell Grammar and Monash Uni, and then came down here when we had kids, or before we had kids.
Yeah, and what brought you down here and when was that?
Beach, absolutely the beach. My husband and I both keen beach goers and swimmers and all those sorts of things, runners. So
you're the type of people get out there every morning, have a walk on the beach and
run
on the beach.
Yeah. My husband swims, I run. We don't actually do the two together.
No.
But,
that sounds like a healthy relationship.
It is, and healthy kids. And a healthy dog.
Yeah.
So, whilst we're actually situated in Little Malop Street, last week there's been some, it's well publicised in terms of the closures here.
Yep.
Is it interim? Is it a trial? Do you want to tell us just a little 12-month trial?
Look, it's great. I think you saw me the other day just filming all about it.
Yeah.
It's a trial that's based on sort of safety and access and making sure that this area really thrives as an alfresco dining area. That's the ultimate objective. We understand that there needs to be some access at the other end, at the Moorabool Street end, but it's essentially about making sure that traffic isn't presenting any safety concerns in what should be a pedestrianised area here.
Yeah, so blocked from 10 a.m. to
4 a.m.
4 a.m. And will alfresco be extended beyond where it is during that time, or?
That hasn't actually been part of the conversation, but I don't know how you go about these things. Do you submit permits if you want to do that?
It's an interesting one there because you have to probably extend the red line, for the liquor licence, which will go back to liquor licensing, which is a whole different thing. It's going to be interesting. But the good thing is there's more places for me to sit every Friday.
Yeah, that's right. So and more people.
But I think what it actually does as an ambience thing, and safety and all those things aside, I think what it actually does to the precinct, it really cements it as the place to be, and you're doing it within a safe environment. I think Ryrine's fantastic.
It did seem really odd cars coming through while we were doing the filming. Even it was quite bizarre how many pieces of vehicle came past into shot. Yeah. So it's.
Do you know this whole area's come alive because of the extra people using it, right? And you've probably seen the paper also, the Regent Theatre.
Yes.
Getting done.
Yes. Looks amazing.
It's going to look great, isn't it? That's, to me, if you ask me, if you have a look at that one, you have a look at the Dimmies. Was the Dimmies the one that the
it was a $2 shop.
The $2 shop, that as well. So that's got an extra 500 odd employees in that one, and this is going to bring a similar number to the Regent Theatre as well. So there's 1,000 employees back into the CBD, which is what we've all been talking about, trying to get people back in, and that will bring alive the whole strip and continue this, won't it? All the way
absolutely, all the way down Little Malop.
Fantastic.
That's one of the conversations we've been having, is rather than just focus on the one section or just the mall area, we should be looking at the whole of Little Malop and how that can actually benefit from a bigger perspective, like a broader picture view.
So is the green spine in the wrong place then?
Actually, one councillor said exactly that. It should have been here, so we decided that 2 green spines was probably the best solution.
We're going to be green city the way we're going.
So, just whilst we're on Little Malop Street, and I guess the separation in Moorabool Street, the buses.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a contentious issue, I guess, for a lot of city businesses.
Absolutely, and a lot of councillors.
Yeah. So, is that a state government?
Yes. It is a state government, and I don't really want to poke the bear, but buses is a bone of contention, absolutely.
There's been
and the
so
bus
many
routes.
Studies on it.
That's right.
Study after study after study showing that the buses should be moved, that there's alternatives to those buses that work, and why can't we get state government to listen to the local voice on that issue?
Well, there are lots of voices. That's part of the problem. I think even if we stick with the bus interchange being where it is, it's the routes that need to be looked at as well.
Yeah.
So it's sort of pick your problem and solve that. I think we have had arguments between the chair of the Geelong Authority and the local MP for a long time because they disagreed as to where the buses should be. So then that means nothing happens. Yeah. I'd prefer to go with, currently I think Christine Cousins wants it to stay where it is. Let's just go with that and work out what the routes are and actually solve the next problem down the line.
Yeah, right. Because from a property perspective, we've got twice as many shops on Moorabool Street that are impacted by the buses than we would if they were on Yarra Street. So you're impacting twice as many retailers and the feel of the city by where they are. So from a property perspective, it makes sense to move them. But
it doesn't need to be a negative thing though, does it? I mean, it's become a negative thing, and if I look at things like the overhang, what do we call it? The verandas over the shops, and that makes it dark, and that makes
awnings.
Awnings. It makes it an unattractive place to be. So can we look at maybe taking those off, beautify it, have the cafes
really
with the...
good point, because you have a look at what Bill did across the road at West End. He took the awnings off, exposed the building, and in this building in Cellar Door there was an awning at the front, if you remember. And when he took it off, it exposed a beautiful old building that was actually there.
Had no idea this building actually existed until that come down.
The guys just did a similar thing with Thomas & Jewellers, where it had it's an inappropriate signage as well, but a big dark facade around it as well, and that's all stripped off, and what you got left is one of the most beautiful buildings probably in Victoria, sitting there, which we now can enjoy. So,
all these buildings were designed without awnings. You know what I mean? So to return them back to how they were originally.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's definitely a 70s thing to bring in all the awnings. And
what it does too, not only does it create dark areas, but it means that kids with bags congregate there, so you end up with school bags and stuff all over the street, which is a bit antisocial. If you actually got rid of all of that And I love the idea, you know, Swan Street, Richmond, where you have the cafes that are actually open out on the street. A lot more of that's happened post-COVID, which is good. But that sort of thing, that's that passive surveillance then. People don't need to go into a shop. They can actually engage just with the front wall, so there's no security issues for people. It's just a different way of looking at things, I think.
Should we talk about the big one? I want to talk about the head office. The head office.
I thought you were going to say the green spine. I thought I'd got through that one.
That's only the small thing these days.
Just wait.
The head office, wasn't a $200 million spend, but we're talking 13,000 square metres of space, and it's happening. I think the right spot up Malop. Yeah, Malop on the corner of Malop, and so that's going to come back down. I think that's a good thing for the city to have everything in the same place.
Well, it's 7 CBD. COGG buildings into one. So it's very much about efficiency for us. And it's a $102 million spend from COGG, from borrowing, so that's not for ratepayers. But $200 million project, you're right, it's a big project.
From a building perspective, I'm very keen to see it go up because it's actually going to be built out of a timber composite material that's like a Meccano set. Which is, they've been talking about building a building like this for a long time. And a lot of developers in Geelong have got this on the cards, but I'm really keen to see this. I think will be the first one. And it gets prefabbed and put together as a timber Lego set, basically.
That's right. Can you believe local government's being the first to do
something?
I know,
being actually innovative.
Clever and creative, that's the word.
Yeah, clever and creative. So that's going to look good. But is the building going to cope with the new COVID regulations? Has there been some sort of discussion or changes to the design because of what we're going through? I mean, we're looking at the TAC and other government authorities saying they're not coming back till September, perhaps, or later. And that's all to do with not having enough capacity and lifts and things like that to get access to the building. We're talking about, if you go up to Melbourne, a lot of the government corporations and the banks, every second desk is taped off, so you have to sit. So they can't fit as many people as they could.
That's right.
So in the new COGG building, has it impacted the design?
I think it did impact the design. I think the timing was actually quite fortuitous. We hadn't already done it, so it's actually worked well. It was the first question we asked. What impact does this have? But certainly there have been amendments, but I think there is a strong argument for having the team coming in. It's a matter of you don't have everybody in, you don't have everybody out. It's actually getting that flexibility and the rotation system working well with a lower density of desk area and that sort of.
Still expected to be completed mid-2022?
Yep, that's right.
And what are you expected to do for culture and having everybody back in under one roof?
Yeah, look, it should be a unifying solution, shouldn't it? I mean, that's the idea. Bearing in mind we don't get involved operationally, so this is absolutely CEO and head of people and culture that are all over this, but we certainly love the idea of everybody being in the same spot. There's a lot of divide with people having to walk, a lot of time wasted, people having to get from one building to another, so look, it's potentially a fantastic solution.
The design looks great.
I am going to stir the pot one more time. What do you think personally about the new state government regulations on height and the controls that they're trying to put onto the development in Geelong? And that this interim report is not due out for another month or so, but has council had much input into it? And what do you have a position on yourself?
Look, we did discuss it, understanding of course that it's out of our hands. This is the state government taking over certain elements of the planning and more to come. I think the objective is good because it will be a holistic approach rather than ad hoc bits and pieces of planning decisionary that was going on. So overall, whether I support it or not, it's irrelevant, and we've got it, so we wear it. I think there was a bit of a shock, and there's certainly a lot of empathy with developers who were taken by surprise.
You're our number one citizen. Does it frustrate you a little bit you don't get more consultation with these sort of state government issues?
Look, you pick your battles. You really do. You pick your battles, and this is probably a battle that there's enough people can fight it, and we will certainly support those stakeholders who need our support if we think it's reasonable as a council group. But generally speaking, the councillors among themselves would absolutely support people trying to get things done. Opening up Geelong for business, that's what we're all about. But equally, nobody wants to have inappropriate development. So. We didn't like the idea that there was commentary around the fact there had been inappropriate development because, we don't really think there has been. I think it's been quite well managed so far. I think Geelong's looking really good. I personally love the high rises. I think it looks like Geelong's growing up.
And from a real estate perspective, there was 2 buildings, recently completed that were 100% sold before construction. So I look at an overdevelopment and I'm like,
why would you stop?
Where's that coming from?
And the resale values exceeded the pre-sale values, which is never seen really in some of the bigger city areas, because usually they fall back because of the tax depreciation, some of the things that are at play in the pre-sale. But they actually had capital growth while they were building them. So they were really strong developments, and they should have, created the way for the next wave of development.
To make it easier for the next tower.
And that doesn't seem to have happened.
That's right.
It doesn't seem to have created. It seems that the hurdles are being put back in front of new developers. I mean, banks are already putting hurdles there with finance, but it's,
well, that would be a shame, because I think we all can see that potential. Geelong always seems to be on the cusp, and I think it's actually happening now. I look back and I think if you look back 5-10 years, it's dramatically changed, hasn't it? The skyline's changed.
Oh, yeah.
The whole place has got a much more energetic vibe now, and there's a real confidence.
Have you got any idea, or has council got any idea what the numbers look like in the last 3 or 4 months of movement from Melbourne to Geelong? Because there's lots of press coming out saying that there's huge movement of people, and we can see and feel that there's more people in the street, there's more cars on the roads. We know that there's more people coming down here, but I can't for the life of me find any statistics or anybody telling me what the numbers are.
No, I don't know either. And
so like we do know the last 2 quarters there's been 17,000 people leave Melbourne.
Yeah, right.
But how many
did we get?
Did we pick up?
Because if we got a half, that's 2 years worth of migration. If we got a third, it's a year's worth of migration in 3 months. So that's a massive impact on everything from infrastructure right through. So on that point of infrastructure and moving of people, if you had a number one infrastructure project, state or federal or local, what would it be?
Absolutely, without doubt, hands down, shared trails.
Shared trails.
Yep, and that's the unanimous vote so far from all the councillors, because we're doing our
Is that
community
because
planning.
You can control that, or would you have
that's the need.
another one if there was...
It's what the community wants. It's absolutely what the community wants.
As a cyclist, I would love to
cyclists, and
see a safe way to ride.
Everybody wants to be able to ride to the shops with their kids. They want to be able to ride from town to town on the Bellarine. They want to be able to get around town. They want to be able to ride to work safely without getting hit on a 100-kilometre highway, so it's an absolute
trucks driving
no-brainer.
past you, all the rest of it.
Yeah, that's right. There are sports stadia, there are swimming pools, there's things like that, but shared trails just keeps coming up as number one with everybody.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's interesting. Obviously, most people who sat there have gone for trains, fast rail.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Not yours?
No, well, we gave our rail away on the Bellarine, didn't we? We made it into a shared path.
You have. Now it's going to make a great bike
path. The irony, yes.
So buses are important. So you're very much driven by your Bellarine connection, aren't you, in Ocean Grove?
Yep.
And so, bearing that in mind, do you? And this is the another challenging question.
Contentious question coming up.
Should the Bellarine secede from the Geelong?
Yeah, I believe so. Absolutely.
Geelong's massive as an LJ, and I think we struggle to provide all the services this town and this Bellarine need, because they're now diverging in requirements, aren't they?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So when you've got Geelong, we're 1,329 square kilometres with 269,000 people in population. You've got Casey at 409 square kilometres at 341,000 population, and you've got Wyndham at 540 square kilometres at 166,000 population. We are double the size of Wyndham and a bit more, and 3 times the size of Casey, and we've got lower population than both. So effectively our rates can't support the services that this community needs anymore.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep, well I would agree with that. I probably wouldn't be, that won't be a welcome statement back at the office, but I've always said that. I think the Bellarine certainly is 60,000 population now, and if you actually changed it, included Surf Coast, they're actually a more like-minded population as well.
So would the answer be to amalgamate with Queenscliff, which is the smallest in the state, only 11 square kilometres and 3,000 people?
Would not have a bar of that. No, would not have a bar of that.
Is it up to them, or is it state government?
Well, I think leaving Queenscliff out of it, I think Surf Coast is the natural.
Surf Coast.
Surf Coast is certainly a point from maybe Torquay, Anglesey, not quite so far down to Colac Otway, but I think there's elements of certainly the Bellarine and that coastal surf.
There's a lot to love about the Bellarine though. Like, it's just grown and grown and grown. Like Ocean Grove, I mean, to me that's my favourite spot in the Bellarine, because it is more like a country town, and it does feel like the secret that didn't quite get to Melbourne, which is great. So you do feel like that village township about it, but where the Torquay seems to have gone in a different direction with multiple township centres and more dense development and stuff like that. Are you interested to see more development in Ocean Grove and on the Bellarine, or are you trying to
lock those boundaries? Look, I tell you, there's a lot of different townships within Ocean Grove now too. We've got new estates, we've got Oakdean, we've got Kingston Village, there's Colandina, there's Old Grove, it's plenty. We need to stop. And the settlement strategy's been fantastic for that. That was the intention, is to make sure the boundaries are understood, clear and locked, so we know we're going to have infill. to balance that out, but people did not want to see the sprawl through from Ocean Grove to Leopold to Point Lonsdale to Drysdale. It's really that the unique characteristics of each township needs to be held on to.
So the argument there is that the population's grown so much that we can't provide the services for this big area, and if we keep letting it grow, that service need keeps growing. So we need to put a break on something, don't we?
Yeah, well, the service profile needs to change, I think. It's how many things do we do at a council level that really could be put to market?
Yeah.
Why are we involved in some of the things that
I have a
we're
little
involved
list
in?
later I can give to you.
Yeah, great. Add it to our list. We've got a list as well.
On that, I think we're getting round up. House funds up. So just want to thank you for coming on and for your frankness.
My pleasure.
Love everything you're doing for the city. So
thank you.
Appreciate you coming on. And cheers.
Honoured and privileged.
I didn't even get a top up today, mate.
Cheers.
Now it's time for Property of the Week. And before we get in there, there's a bit of intel that's just come in. Spotted leaving the game early on Friday.
I love my catters, but there was a big billboard that said anybody who'd been in Queensland from March 12th had to leave. And so I got a few dirty looks from a few people and I had to leave. And I was devastated.
Out of there.
And I don't often get invited to the President's Lunch. Thank you, SC Technology, for the invite. And I had to exit, but the good thing was I exited with the President of Brisbane Lions, so I wasn't on my own.
There we go. And lucky to get away with the win. But
yes,
great chat with Steph. Really enjoyed that. If we didn't continue to get the wine up from Johnny there, I think we could have continued to chat. But
she's great, isn't she?
Fantastic. Why don't you tell us about our guest next month?
Well, today's guest was a ripper, but next month is going to be even better, I reckon. Well, we'll see. But Justin Giddings is got to be one of the most out-and-going CEOs of any airport in Australia. He's always on the front of the paper and doing all sorts of stuff. So he's a very innovative guy, and he's also a really good blue blood Geelong boy. So he couldn't have a better bloke. So it's going to be great to see Justin.
So if there's any questions you want us to ask Justin, feel free to shoot them through. Our email is proptbythebar@gmail.com. And of course, hit subscribe.
Just down here somewhere, hit subscribe. And then once you've hit that, you can hit the bell button and that'll get you all linked in, so you'll get some notifications every time our show comes out.
Into the properties, mate. We've got a couple of...
some doozies on the way.
Yeah, well, we've got one commercial, one resi.
Yeah, and another one I'm going to throw into the mix, so a little bit. So,
without notice.
Well, first of all, there's we've got one coming up for sale, which is at 15 Little Ryrie Street, that's selling this Friday coming. So that's going to be really interesting. Now, this is an office building. Now, why this is interesting, it's not a substantially great building or anything like that, but why it's interesting is because we haven't had an investment sale in the Geelong CBD for over 12 months. So getting a measurement on the market from an investment point of view is what this sale is all about. Yeah. And you're going to see a lot of people at auction that are going to be really keen just to see what happens.
It's a good tester, because the amount of inquiry you get from people looking for investments, and now the amount of attention that's on the CBD, this is going to be, as you say, a great tester of...
Well, in this market, if your money was in the bank, you're getting no return. So investments, anybody who's got investments has held on to them. And logically, because they're getting good 6 or 7% return from these buildings, why would you sell them? So this is going to be great to see it sell. It's got a rental return of $135,000 per annum. It's probably a little bit underlet. It's a big building area, 761 square metres. It's not in the greatest spot in Geelong, but it is opposite some of the government authorities and up there in Little Ryrie Street. So look, nearest to the pin, I think 5%, I'll say.
5%, so about 2.7?
About 2.7.
I reckon it's going to break through that.
What do you reckon?
The conservative value. Yeah, I reckon it's going to be 2.8 plus.
Game on. Loser buys the next wine. So that's our first one, and that's going to be really interesting. And Darcy Jarman are the listing and selling agents of that one, so good luck, boys. We'll all be there bidding for you. So, well, not bidding, cheering for you. The next property I want to talk about is a property that came out the front of the paper this week that is the Regent Theatre. And this is really important also to Geelong. And it's not for sale, it's not a sale property as such, but maybe a future listing property. This is the most beautiful building that was covered up in the 70s, in that era of cover anything that had any style up. And it's going to be a beautiful building, and the guys at Hamilton Group got it, and they're just about to turn into 3 floors of office.
Yep.
So, and that's going to, as we were talking with Stephanie, that's going to bring, another 500 odd employment people working in the CBD and using the footpaths, and that's going to create some change in the Geelong CBD again. And we haven't seen that next level change for a while. We've had it coming, but with this building and Thomas Jewellers, we're going to start seeing some of that change again.
Yeah, and I think if you can spread that CBD out a little bit in terms of where employment is, at the moment it's been north of where we are now. But if you can start getting, some to the east and the west, you start getting that thoroughfare activity, which creates, ambience, not only the ambience, but you get the foot traffic through the cafe scene and down to the shopping centres.
I've only got one request, is the council's got to stop putting really terrible bands out on the street. Some of them are shocking. But it's good. It's good to have the vibrance of something happening there. So I get where they're trying to go. But my real property of the week, the real proper residential sale that I think is a really iconic building, is 271A Pakington Street. Now this is being sold by Jim Cross at McGrath's, who always do a great job of marketing and selling their properties. But this property is fantastic. It sits at the top of Pakington Street. Everybody will know it because it's the one with the tower.
Highly unique. Yeah,
and that's why I wanted to bring attention to it this week. So the Newtown and Chilwell Fire Station it was established in 1859. It's a beautiful old building, and the front facade, when they renovated it and fixed it all up, they actually won, I think, 2 or 3 different heritage awards for that building, for the renovation. So they've done a great job. And inside, it's just next level. It's next level. It's beautiful. We've got polished floors all the way through, both black butt and polished concrete. We've got really high-end appliances, meal appliances.
Well, it's a builder's home, so it's finished impeccably.
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's beautiful. I'd live there in a heartbeat. And it's got this big outdoor lap pool and spa. So that's going to be a really good test of the market too. Up the top end, property well presented at the top end of the town, on the probably arguably the pinnacle of Geelong's residential market up there. I can't wait to see where this ends up, and it's going to be really interesting to see. It's only on a very small land area, 370 square metres, but the building itself is over a couple of floors, so it's going to be really interesting
where it lands. Got a little bit of a present for you, mate.
Uh-oh, this is without notice.
This is without notice. I know you took umbrage of me not wearing socks last month, but I actually was.
Did you wear socks?
Oh, there were actually socks, mate. So, courtesy of Eddie Elias. Will now be. I've got you some socks, mate. They're hidden socks.
I'm going to try these out.
They're the socks when you don't want to be seen to be
better than my nice red
socks.
I got me Salvo socks on today.
There you go, mate.
Salvation Army. Look after the Salvos.
Anyway, we are going to wrap up. We just want to thank Mayor Stephanie Asher for coming in. Really enjoyed our chat with her. Again, thanks to Johnny Helmer at Geelong Celador, Chris Bryan at Moon Media, and of course John Fitzgerald for putting this all together. Thanks, Gareth.
Look forward to next week with Justin Giddings, next month with Justin Giddings. That's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Anyway, we'll see you then. Thanks very much.
Cheers.